Hey guys, today I'll be talking about how Dash AI Pro ESC works. So this is the AI Pro V2 program box, and then we can check everything with this program box. So upon plugging in, you have a few things you can choose. First is the mode, data logger, and update. So I'll start with the update. Update is normally for when there's a new software and when it's needed to update the software for both the program box and also the ESC. But right now we are not going into it. So I'll talk about a little bit about the data logger. Basically, the data logger is for us to check the ESC temperature and the motor temperature. Also, you can check the RPM as well. This is a good indication that you can actually push the limit of your electronics by using this as a reference. So I always check whenever I go to a new track or during a race. I'll check after the run to see how my temperatures are going. So anyway, let's move on to the mode. So upon pressing the mode, right, you can see this is a ESC motor link up. Okay, so you can choose A, B, C, or the other way, CBA. Basically, this means that you can actually solder A port to A port, which is normal, but if you choose the other way around, like CBA, then you can choose to solder A port to C port, and vice versa. So this is one of the good points that the ESC has. Moving on, you can see this is the program. Starting off, this is a blinky mode. Okay, we can choose the mode. So if you are not running blinky mode, you can choose modify mode, open stock, off-road. Yeah, let's start with blinky mode. Okay, and this is quick setup. So there are 3 setup that's available in the software. You have quick setup, advanced setup, and initial setup. So let's go into initial setup. The first one is running mode. So it depends on what you want. For me, I use forward and brake only. You can choose a forward reverse or forward brake reverse. And then you have the reverse force, but since I'm not using, I move forward. And you can choose the battery type. You have a voltage cutoff. Basically, I turn it off. Yeah, you have low, medium, high. Same for the ESC and the motor. This is just a protection. So normally when I go to the race, I will just like turn it off. But to start with, I'll recommend 120 degree, so that you don't actually burn your stuff if you are unsure about your setup. Then neutral range, I always use 6%. BEC voltage, you have 7 volt, 6 volt. So I always use 7 volt. This is the rotation of the motor, so it's either you want it clockwise or counterclockwise. And basically this is just this is it. This is the initial setup. So for me, as you can see, there are 3 setup menu, right? So initial setup, normally you do it once and you never have to go in again. So we go back to the quick setup. So now I'll go into quick setup. Quick setup consists of punch, PWM, compress, track brake. That's it. That's it for blinky mode. So punch, the higher level it is, of course you get more punch. PWM is basically the drive frequency. or at least to me is known as the drive frequency. So you can see I have 8000 here. So if I want it to be, the drive to be smoother overall, then I will go up on the frequency. If I want it to be more aggressive, then I'll go down on the value of the frequency. Compress. Compress is like a throttle curve. If you want to be more aggressive with your throttle curve, then you go higher percentage. Likewise, if you want it more smooth, then you go down on the percentage. Drag brake. Basically, if you want more drag in the infield, you can set higher percentage, and you can also go lower. Depends on your driving and how you like the car to feel. So we move on to advanced setup. We have the brake frequency in this menu. So it works like exactly the same like drive frequency, except this is only applicable to the brakes. So it's the same theory as the drive frequency. With higher frequency number, it's more smooth, and with lower number, it's more aggressive. And normally I like to play with this frequency because you can have a really good feeling with it. If I have too much initial brakes, for example, I will change the frequency to a higher value, so I get a smoother overall feeling. The resolution is better. I have initial brake and I have brake range, but normally I never change the setup. I will only change the setup on the brake frequency. Brake force, it depends on you. It's like it's almost identical like the brakes EPA on your transmitter, but this is on the ESC. So normally for Blinky class, where your motor brakes are not so strong, I recommend to use 100%. For modified, normally I use 70%, and depending on the track, sometimes more, sometimes less. And that's it. That's the menu for Blinky mode. So it's pretty simple and straightforward. Okay, so I'll talk about the modified mode. Basically, it's the same. You have quick setup, advanced setup, and initial setup. I'll go into quick setup. So what we have here is softening. Basically, softening is the parameter that allows you to have a softer punch, that initial feel, and you can have a even smoother drivability than not having it before. So I mean, you can also take it out if you by taking it out, you just use the highest level of value for the softening, and then there will be totally no softening. So you have punch is the same. Now you have boost. So boost is like it works in an infield normally. So if you have 10 degree of boost, normally you have your infield will be much faster compared to not having boost. Then you have turbo. The difference between boost and turbo works only when you apply full throttle on your transmitter. So you can see the turbo up rate, the turbo up rate, and then you have turbo down rate. So turbo down rate is activated upon releasing your throttle. So if you have a higher value, right, then the turbo will come down much faster. It will deactivate much faster. So meaning it's like to give you an example, it's like having a stronger engine brake. Whereas turbo up rate, it's how fast you want the turbo to kick in when turbo is applied. You have drag brake, same, and that's it for a quick setup. Moving on to the advanced setup, we have PWM, compress, boost start. So boost start is how fast you want the boost to start at. So we have 45%, meaning you can actually make it earlier or later for the boost to start. So if you have a lower percentage of boost, then it will start earlier, and when you have a higher percentage, it will start later. Boost range. So you can have a bigger range of boost, or you can have a smaller range. So it all depends on your personal preference, if you like more boost or less. Turbo delay. So for turbo delay, upon full throttle, there will be a delay. You can choose how fast you want or how slow you want, and you can even off it. So for a small track, I recommend to off it, especially on carpet. But normally for big outdoor tracks, you don't want the turbo to kick in the infield. So I would normally set this at a higher value. Turbo start. So it depends on at which point you want the turbo to start at. You can set it 92% or 100%. Brake frequency, initial brake range, max brake force. Yeah, and that's it. So that's it for today's video, and I hope you have a better overview of how the ESC works. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll try to answer them.